I have come to the realization that you'd be stupid not to post on YouTube. And when I say you, I mean me. Honestly, me and you. But everyone who's trying to build a brand, it's come to my attention that, and this is like, I'm years behind the 8 ball here, but I've come to the realization that YouTube is such a massive platform that if you are a creator, a business owner, someone who just wants to put yourself out there full stop, you'd be stupid not to use this massive search engine, media engine that is YouTube. Now, the thing that put me over the hump here is the lovely stat that YouTube is the world's second largest search engine. And that's crazy. That's crazy just to say out loud. And it was crazy for me to just like look at that and be like, why the hell aren't I using it to my best of my ability? Why aren't I diving into YouTube? Now, I'm a business owner. I run my own business, but I also want to grow my personal brand. I want to grow my business and I want to grow my personal brand. So why wouldn't you use the world's second largest search engine and just something that I use pretty much daily? And so many people do use YouTube daily. And I've got some lovely numbers over here that I'm going to read out later just to ram home the point that it's silly not to use YouTube. And that's why I wanted to dive into it. It's not only YouTube, by the way. It's long form content. We're also distracted by short form content, but long form content might be just the most refreshing type of content right now. And I'll tell you why. I will tell you why. So first and foremost, it's just a massively missed opportunity if you don't use YouTube. And why? More eyeballs equals more attention. Attention, growth, opportunities. It just equals all these things that we want as business owners and as personal brand owners. I don't know if that makes sense, but you get what I'm saying. We want to grow those two things, and leveraging a platform like YouTube just makes a ton of sense. And by the way, with this stuff, I always say to myself to practice what you preach. What do I mean by that? If I was telling someone to put themselves out there, if I was giving advice about a personal brand or a business owner and telling them what to do, I'd be like, hey, have you thought about YouTube? So this is what I mean about I want to practice what I preach. I tell them to do the same thing, so I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to put content up on YouTube, and that's what I'm doing right now. And it's exciting. It's not even just about like growth, honestly. It's about the challenge. The challenge of it all, the challenge of growing it. I've watched YouTube for a long time. I've had different YouTube channels, but not one that's just me. Just my personal brand. Just my business. Not that. And that's pretty exciting, I reckon. Now, I alluded to this earlier, but this is to really ram home the point about how big YouTube is and how many people use YouTube. This is about ChatGPT. Let's round some off, by the way. So audience size, there's 2.5 billion active users no, that's not right. There's 2.5 billion monthly active users globally on YouTube, and around 122 people No, there is 122 people only that use YouTube every day, and that's the missed opportunity. No, there's 122 million people that use YouTube every single day, which is pretty crazy. Over 1 billion hours of YouTube videos are viewed every single day. And this is a good one. YouTube reaches roughly 46% of all internet users worldwide. Once again, these stats is to make you realize what a legit massive market and audience YouTube can provide. Like, it's just a massive platform. So if you want to grow with YouTube. It's pretty straightforward. Now that I'm saying all this stuff, it is. And I kind of wish, it's like anything. You wish you dived into it maybe a bit sooner, a bit quicker. But here you are now, so don't beat yourself up too much, all right? Around 5 billion videos are watched every single day. That's a lot of videos. Users spend, this is nice. Users spend 48 minutes per day on average watching YouTube, which I will allude to this later. I will go a bit into the short form versus long form debate, but that just means people are willing to spend actual time and not like doom scrolling 5 minutes time, 5 seconds time, whatever, 10 seconds time. They're actually dedicated to watching YouTube for that period of time, which is great. Now, I assume this is similar to Instagram as well, but YouTube isn't just social media, it's a search engine brought to you by ChatGPT. That's what it is. It's the second largest search engine in the world behind Google, and I believe Google own YouTube anyway, but it is widely considered the second largest search engine globally. So use it to your advantage is what I'm saying here. All right, back to my points. That's enough ChatGPT stats thrown your way. But long form content is authentic and it builds trust. To me, that's almost the best part about long form these days. And it's probably been this way for a while, but I've really dived into it as of late. And if I am a consumer of content, which I am, but the content that resonates most with me these days is, I was about to say short form, is long form content. Why? Because I always go back to podcast for these examples. If I'm watching a podcast, if I'm listening to a podcast and a guest come on that podcast, they've got an hour and a half to talk about them, to talk about their business, to talk about their knowledge, their expertise, all that stuff. But the best stuff that comes out in that hour is their quirky sense of humor, their personality, their family, their dog, their cat, their them. That's the best stuff that comes out in those hour conversations. And those are the stuff that makes me then go to Instagram, YouTube, just Google direct and search them. Search who they are as people, follow them. I'm so much more likely to follow people that way through long form content than I am with short form. And I know it's a different beast. I'm going to talk about this later, but it just builds trust to me. And I'm sure it builds trust to a lot of you out there. They show the real you and you can't really fake that. Like imagine trying to fake a persona for an hour plus on a podcast when it's like quote unquote live. Like you're not editing it. Yes, you might get to approve it as the guest, but imagine trying to fake a different persona or personality for that period of time. It would be hard. I'm sure people do it, by the way, but it'll be hard. And people will see through it much more than they will with short form content. So I just think long form builds authenticity and trust, and you get to see the real person, the real business owners, the real people behind the brands. And that's the good stuff. That's the really good stuff. This is perhaps my favorite point. Long form content actually makes you feel good-ish once you consume it. No, it does. For the most part, it does. And these days it does to me. Look, regardless of if it does 100% of the time, probably not. But it feels a hell of a lot better than short form. And when you lay it out like that, when you just look at a piece of paper up there that says like short form equals making you feel bad and long form equals making you feel good, it's pretty damn obvious what we should be investing our time in as consumers. If we just like content, it's pretty obvious what maybe we should do a bit more of. And I speak to you and I speak to me at the same time. I do this often because that kind of resonates most with me. I want myself to remember these points, okay? So why does long form feel good? I think it feels good because you're invested in it. You know you're like dedicating a certain amount of time, whether it's a 10 minutes on reading a newsletter properly. I'm counting that as long form, by the way, right now. That is long form. Podcast, you're investing an hour plus listening to it as you travel, whatever it is. YouTube, you're investing 10, 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. You're investing time to actually be present. That great thing we talk about all the time these days, to be present and actually watch content and hopefully not get distracted. And by the end of it, you just feel pretty good. You're like, okay, I learned something. I invested my time here. It's not short form as in like it's just throwing things left, right, and center at you to try to take in and take what you want from it. It's sitting there and actually listening to everything the person has to say in a long form way. And that way you just get to understand it a hell of a lot more than short form. And I'm not saying short form is bad. I'm just saying they're two different beasts. And I'm kind of just like realizing how good long form is to consume and to create in a sense as well. All right, I'm going to hit you with some final points to convince you and to convince me that you should just put yourself out there on YouTube. All right, here we go. Number one, YouTube videos sit there in the world for years. It's like someone said the other day on a podcast, I'm pretty sure they view their YouTube as like a TV series. You can go back and you can always watch these things. They're going to sit on this massive engine that you can search, you can follow. It's like watching Friends. If any Friends lovers out there, I know my wife is a Friends lover, you always go back and watch them because you resonate with them and it's just funny or it's educational, whatever you want to get from these TV shows. But YouTube sits there. YouTube videos sit there. It's not like social media. Like how often how often do you go on your favorite creators or business owners' Instagram and go watch back videos from even a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, a year ago? It never happens. Like that's not what social media in Instagram, like that's not what Instagram and TikTok is for. It's for real-time dopamine hits and real-time entertainment. And there's nothing wrong with that. Once again, just want to make it clear, but there's something pretty special or nice or refreshing about long-form content these days. You can always go back to it. You can always search these things up, especially if it's a hit video and it's really educational or it's really well put together. That's kind of cool to me. Once again, the average time spent on YouTube is 48 minutes, which means people are actually giving their attention. It's not short swipes. It's not swiping for the sake of a quick dopamine hit. That's cool to me, because I think there's so often, whenever you think about content these days, it's just short form. It's just like, okay, how are we going to stay active? How are we going to post every single day? That's why I keep thinking long form is pretty refreshing. Now, some numbers to ram it home. 2.5 billion users exist on YouTube. 1 billion hours watched daily. That is a lot. 2.4 million videos uploaded daily. There's your competitors. Hey, you got to stand out. If you can find a way to stand out amongst those people and amongst those videos being uploaded daily, you're doing well. Second largest search engine in the world. Once again, this is the number one factor, and it brings me to my last point. Again, to really make it clear, does it not make sense to leverage the world's second largest search engine? It doesn't make sense not to do that. That is the final point here. Long form. Think about how you can use long form. I know how I'm thinking about how I can use long form. For a long time, I've used short form to convey my thoughts, my opinions, my updates in my business. Think about long form. I might be late. I was talking to my brother the other day, and he's like, long form has been like not a thing, but it's been like a buzzword over the past couple of months, years, or whatever, as in like long form is only going to become more and more popular. And I realize this, but I think it's only just hit me how much that is true. So let's see what happens.